I hadn't missed a Sunday dinner in 12 years. Not once. Not after working 70-hour weeks during the brutal fiscal year ends. Not after pulling draining double shifts during tax season. Not even during that one miserable winter when I got a flu so vicious I could barely stand, the world tilting every time I moved my head. My mother, Helen, always said I was the dependable one. It was meant as a compliment, but it always felt more like a job title. The daughter who remembered everyone's birthdays, who always brought dessert without being asked, who showed up. Always. That particular evening, I drove the 40 familiar minutes to my parents' house with a heavy ceramic lasagna dish still hot on my passenger seat. I'd made it from scratch, the specific kind my dad, Robert, liked, with extra cheese and absolutely no ricotta. The rich, comforting smell of garlic and basil filled the car like a tangible memory. That smell had always meant home. It was the scent of belonging. Their porch light was on when I arrived, a pale, welcoming yellow against the deepening dusk, the kind of beacon that makes you think someone is inside, waiting just for you. I parked out front on the street, careful not to block my older brother Michael's prized driveway spot. He always got the spot closest to the house. It was an unspoken rule, one of many that governed our family's quiet, intricate dance. I climbed the 3 concrete stairs with the lasagna warm and heavy in my hands. A familiar rhythm. Left foot, right foot, pause on the 3rd step because it always creaked. I didn't knock right away. I was reaching for the handle of the screen door, my fingers just inches from the cool metal, when I heard my name. Clara won't be a problem. She never says no to family. It was my father's voice, Robert, flat and certain and utterly devoid of warmth. I froze. My hand stayed suspended in the air, a breath away from the handle. Inside, their voices bounced off the cheerful kitchen tiles, sharp and clear. My mother, Helen, sounded strained, her voice tight with a worry that didn't sound like it was for me. But 300,000? Robert, that's insane. Michael, how did you even? It doesn't matter how, Michael said, his voice cutting through hers like a shard of glass. What matters is that I need it handled before the audit goes any deeper. You said you'd help me. Then my father again, his tone calm, placid, decided. We will. Clara's got that big promotion. Remember? Senior analyst at that big firm downtown. She's probably making, what, 150 now? The dish in my hands didn't shift, but something deep inside of me did. It felt like the cracking of a foundation, a deep, structural groan in the very bedrock of my life. I stayed completely still, as if moving might make the words they were saying more real, more true. The screen door pressed coolly against my forearm. The lasagna, the one I had spent my afternoon crafting with love, was slowly, irrevocably losing its heat between my fingers. Inside, the conversation continued as if I didn't exist, as if I wasn't standing right there on their porch, holding an offering for them. She mentioned something about bonuses last month, Michael added, his voice greedy. It's probably more than 150. My mother sighed, a long, weary sound. She works so hard, she said. Always has. There was a pause. I held my breath, waiting, hoping for her to defend me, to shut this monstrous conversation down. Then, her voice returned, softer now, as if she were convincing herself, talking herself into the betrayal. We'll say it's for the roof, she murmured. The house has been leaking. We can start there. 30,000, maybe. Then later, medical bills. I'll say I need some expensive procedures. Michael didn't even let her finish the thought. Spread it out, he coached her. She'll give it. She always gives. Remember? The loan for my business? 20 grand. No questions asked. Never even asked for it back. She gave us her signing bonus from her first big job, Robert said, and it sounded like a point of pride, like he was boasting about a well-trained dog. 40,000. Just handed it right over. Michael laughed then, a short, ugly bark of a sound. Who does that? She still thinks we're a real family. It's almost sad. Helen didn't laugh. Her voice came back, brittle this time. Don't talk about your sister that way. She's naive, Mom, Michael shot back. She thinks showing up with a damn lasagna actually means something. I couldn't move. I couldn't blink. I saw it all with a horrifying, sudden clarity. I saw myself on this porch, again and again and again, arms full of gifts, heart wide open, never once suspecting that I wasn't giving, but being drained. That I wasn't loved, but harvested. Robert's voice was calm again, the voice of a man orchestrating a simple plan. We'll space out the requests. And Helen, you know Clara can't say no when you cry. That always works. I don't like lying to her, Helen said, her voice quiet, a flicker of conscience that was quickly extinguished. It's not lying, Michael replied, his tone dismissive. It's family. Her money is family money. She doesn't have kids, doesn't have a husband. What is she even spending it on, anyway? That apartment. The apartment. The one I had poured every spare dollar and every ounce of my soul into. The one with the view of the park and a front door that locked securely against the world. The only place on earth I truly called mine. "She'll be fine," Robert said, his voice as final as a gavel. "She always handles things. That's what she does." "Are you sure there's no other way?" Helen asked, one last, weak protest. Michael's voice dropped, laced with a new, venomous threat. "Unless you want me to end up in federal prison for tax evasion and fraud, no. This is it. My lawyer says if I can pay it back before they dig any deeper, they'll likely drop it to civil penalties. Tax evasion. Fraud. My brother, the golden child, the one they bragged about to cousins, to coworkers, to strangers at the grocery store. He wasn't just struggling financially. He was a criminal. And they were going to make me pay for it." I stepped back from the door, slowly, carefully, my feet moving as if through water. I made sure not to creak the third step. My hands were slick with sweat. The heavy dish nearly slipped. I caught it, my muscles clenching. No sound. No trace. I couldn't let them know I'd heard. I couldn't give them the satisfaction that I made it. Back to my car without falling apart. That, in itself, surprised me. My legs felt disconnected from my body, like I was floating just above the pavement, a ghost leaving her own life. The lasagna sat on my lap like a cruel, elaborate joke I didn't get any more. I didn't drive off right away. I just sat there, with the engine off, listening to the faint, indifferent buzz of summer bugs and the sound of the occasional passing car. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. A text from Helen. Asterisk, "Where are you, sweetie? Dinner's ready." Asterisk, my thumb hovered over the screen, trembling slightly. Then, a strange, cold calm settled over me. I typed, "Sorry. Got called into work. Emergency audit. Rain check." 3 dots blinked on her end. Then came the reply. Asterisk, "Oh no. We have something important to discuss with you. Can it wait?" Asterisk, she was going to say it. The roof. The lie about the leaky roof. Just like they had planned. "Sorry, Mom," I typed back. "Boss says it's urgent. Love you." I didn't drive home. Not yet. I just drove. I drove through the city lights, past gas stations and late-night diners, places that didn't know me, places that held no memories. I needed motion, not arrival. I needed to feel like I was moving away from the person I had been just an hour earlier. By the time I finally pulled into the echoing silence of my apartment garage, the lasagna had gone completely cold. I left it on the passenger seat, a forgotten offering, and walked up to my apartment with empty hands. Inside, I didn't turn on the lights right away. I stood by the large window in my living room, watching the city lights filter through the shadows of the trees in the park, and I felt something crack open deep inside me. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was something quieter, colder. It was a tired kind of clarity. I had given them $40,000 the year I graduated from college, my entire signing bonus, and then I had lived on instant ramen and cheap coffee for a year until I could save again. I gave Michael $20,000 when his first business venture collapsed, no questions asked. I paid for their lavish 25th anniversary dinner when they said money was tight. I never once asked for a single penny back, because I thought that's what good daughters did. What good sisters did. What family did. But now I understood something I hadn't been willing to see before. They never saw it as generosity. They saw it as compliance. They saw me as a resource. An account to be drawn from. A well that would never run dry. By the time I finally went to bed, a plan had started to form in my mind. It was a quiet plan. A sharp plan. And I wasn't going to tell them I knew. Not yet. I was going to let them walk right into the trap they had set for me. The next morning, I didn't make coffee. I made moves. I sat down at my sleek, modern desk, the one I had been so proud to buy, and I opened every single financial account I had. Checking, savings, investments, even that old, forgotten 401k from my first job out of college. With a methodical, chilling precision, I transferred every single cent to new accounts at new banks, institutions my parents had never heard of, banks where my name was not a familiar, welcome sight. I then called each customer service line, my voice calm and steady, and set up fraud alerts, froze every point of joint access I had ever foolishly shared with them over the years. Then I changed every password, enabled two-factor authentication on everything, and changed all my security recovery questions from mother's maiden name to things they could never possibly guess. My phone began to ring nonstop. Helen. Robert. Michael. I let it ring. The sound was a symphony of their dawning panic. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my work email and composed a message to my boss, Eleanor Vance. The subject line was simple. Personal and urgent. Eleanor was a sharp, formidable woman in her 50s. She had no kids, wore impeccably tailored suits, and carried herself like someone who had walked through fire and emerged on the other side with her high heels still intact. When I stepped into her corner office, she didn't offer a polite, meaningless smile. She just gestured to the chair across from her desk. "I need your advice," I said, my voice steady. "Not legal advice, not yet. Just personal. But it might affect my work." She nodded, her intelligent eyes focused entirely on me. "Go on." And so, I told her everything. The conversation I'd overheard on the porch. The years of financial gifts. Michael's fraud. The meticulously crafted plan they had made to drain me of $300,000. And then, I told her about my own plan. The one I had executed that morning. To vanish, financially speaking. She listened to the entire, sordid story without interruption, her arms crossed, her expression growing darker and more thunderous with every paragraph I spoke. When I finished, the silence in the room was heavy. She leaned forward, her gaze sharp. "First," she said, her voice firm, "you are handling this with more composure than most people I know. Second, you need a lawyer. Not because you did anything wrong, but because they are going to try to twist this against you. Third, you need a record. Every dollar you ever gave them. Every text message asking for help. Document everything." I opened my laptop and showed her the spreadsheet I had started building the night before, a grim accounting of my own generosity. 5 years of transfers, dates, amounts, with notes in the margin like Michael's emergency business expense and Helen's medical bill. Eleanor whistled, a low, soft sound. "Clara, that's nearly $200,000. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My throat felt too tight. Then she looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something soft in her eyes, a flicker of genuine empathy. "Now, one more thing," she said, her tone shifting. "We have an opening in our London office. Same title, better pay. And most importantly," she paused, letting the weight of her words sink in, "an entire ocean between you and this mess." "London," I repeated, the word tasting strange and foreign. "You wouldn't be alone," she said. "You'd have the full support of the firm. We would handle your visa, the move, everything." I didn't answer right away. Not yet. But something inside me, something that had been cracked and broken, began to shift, to realign itself towards that new, distant possibility. That afternoon, Michael finally got through to me. I had forgotten to block his work number. I don't know why I answered. Morbid curiosity, perhaps. I wanted to hear how he would spin the web of lies they had woven. "Jesus, Clara," he said, his voice a mixture of annoyance and feigned concern. "Where the hell have you been?" "Working," I said, my voice flat and cold. "At that job you seem to think prints money for your personal use." "What's that supposed to mean?" he shot back. "It means I'm busy, Michael." "What do you want?" "We need to talk. As a family. Dinner tomorrow night." "Can't," I said. "I have plans." "More important than family?" he asked, his voice dripping with condescension. I didn't hesitate. The kind of plans where people don't scheme to steal $300,000 from me. So yes, more important. There was a heavy, loaded silence on the other end of the line. "I don't know what you're talking about," he finally said, his voice weak. "Tax evasion. Fraud. You are going to let me pay for your crimes." He laughed then, a sound that was too loud, too forced. "You were listening. I was bringing you lasagna," I said, the words sharp as a knife. "Remember that family dinner? The thing you said I foolishly still believe in?" "Clara, listen to me," he started, his tone shifting to one of pleading. "It's not what you think." "Oh, it's exactly what I think. You planned it all. You told your own mother to cry if she had to, because that always works. You called me naive." "I'm in trouble, Clara," he whined. "You should have thought of that before you decided to break federal law, Michael. You're seriously going to let me go to prison over money? Money you can easily afford?" I closed my eyes, picturing his smug face. "I couldn't afford the 40 grand I gave mom and dad when I was 22. I couldn't afford the 20 grand I gave you for your failed startup. I couldn't afford any of it. But I gave it. Because I thought that's what family did for each other." The silence on his end was heavy now, choked with the weight of his own greed. "I'm begging you," he finally whispered. "I already told you," I said, my voice cold and final. "Beg someone else." I hung up the phone. The texts started immediately. A barrage of them. From Michael, from Helen, from Robert. I didn't read them. I just deleted them, one by one. On Wednesday, there was a commotion at the office lobby. I got a call from reception. It was Helen. She looked older than I remembered, her hair undone, her eyes red and puffy. She hadn't waited to be buzzed in. She had rushed past the security desk and found me standing by the elevators. "Clara, please," she cried, her voice echoing in the vast, marble lobby. "Please, just talk to me. I stood there, in my navy blazer and sensible heels, a world away from the sobbing, disheveled woman in front of me. "We can talk," I said, my voice even. "Right here." She flinched, looking around at the curious faces of my colleagues. "Can't we go somewhere private? Your brother is in so much trouble." "I know," I said. "Fraud. Tax evasion. He told me he made some mistakes, but he's your brother." "No," I corrected her gently. "He's your son. You help him. We don't have the money. You know that." "Then perhaps he shouldn't have committed a felony," I replied. Her voice cracked, the performance beginning. "How can you be so cold? This isn't like you." "You're right," I agreed. The old me would have already written the check. The old me thought love meant endless, unreciprocated sacrifice. The old me believed you when you said, "Family helps family." She looked up at me, her face a mask of confusion. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the old me died on your porch Sunday night," I said, my voice low and clear. That stopped her. The fake tears ceased. "You don't mean that." I leaned in closer, my voice dropping to a whisper so only she could hear. "You said I wouldn't say no. You said I don't understand how the real world works. You said I turn to pudding. When you cry." Real tears welled in her eyes now. Not the performative, manipulative kind. These were tears of real, genuine fear. "We were desperate," she choked out. "No," I said. "You were greedy. There is a very big difference." She reached out a trembling hand to touch my arm. I stepped back. I left her there in the gleaming lobby, standing under the golden letters of my firm's name. And for the first time in my life, I didn't look back. Thursday came and went in a haze of blessed, uninterrupted silence. No calls. No texts. No surprise drop-ins at my office. For a fleeting, hopeful moment, I allowed myself to think that maybe it was finally over. Maybe they had finally understood. On Friday afternoon, I was packing up my desk for the weekend when the receptionist called my line. "Clara, there's someone from a legal service downstairs. A process server. Says he has some documents for you." I froze, my hand hovering over my keyboard. Then, I exhaled slowly. "Send him up." He was a nondescript man in a cheap suit who handed me a thick manila envelope. No eye contact, no words. Just a scribbled signature on his clipboard and a quiet, hurried exit. Inside the envelope was a formal complaint. My parents were suing me. They were claiming that all the money I had given them over the years were, in fact, loans. They claimed I was now demanding immediate repayment and had caused them severe emotional distress and financial instability by cutting off all contact. It was so absurd, so utterly divorced from reality, that I laughed. Right there at my desk, I laughed. It wasn't a sharp, happy sound. It was a hollow, empty one. The kind of sound you let out when your capacity for disbelief finally gives up and lets pure, unadulterated exhaustion take over. They weren't just trying to guilt me anymore. They were trying to punish me for disobeying. I called the attorney. Eleanor had recommended a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Priya Sharma. I scanned and emailed her the documents. She called me back 10 minutes later. "They have no case," she said, her voice crisp and efficient. "There are no contracts, no documentation, no written agreements. Nothing to prove any of this was ever a loan. This is textbook harassment, Clara." "Can we countersue?" I asked, a flicker of vengeful anger momentarily flaring up. "We could," she said. "We could sue for damages. Emotional distress, defamation of character. We would likely win." I paused, considering it. The idea of dragging them through a humiliating public battle, of taking their money. It didn't sit right. It felt like their game, not mine. "No," I said, a sudden clarity washing over me. "I don't want their money. I just want them to be gone." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Understood," Priya finally said. I closed the folder, put it in a drawer, and locked it. That weekend, I started packing. Not just my belongings, but my entire life. I was packing for London. I was packing for a future that wouldn't include people who saw me as a checkbook. In heels, the movers were scheduled for Tuesday. All weekend, I filled boxes with things I once thought I would keep forever. Cookbooks with my mother's familiar handwriting in the margins, noting her adjustments to a recipe. Framed photos from holidays where I had, invariably, been the one behind the camera, always documenting their joy, never quite a part of it. I wrapped them all carefully in newspaper, then I left most of them in a neat stack by the trash chute. On Sunday morning, Michael called again. The number was unfamiliar, a burner phone, no doubt. I picked up without thinking. "You're really going to let me go to prison," he said, his voice stripped of its usual arrogance, replaced by a raw, desperate fear. "I'm not letting you do anything, Michael," I answered, my voice tired. "You're going to prison because you committed serious crimes. I could lose everything, he whispered, his voice cracking. I already have, I said softly. My family. My trust. My belief that any of you ever cared about me as a person, and not just as a resource. There was another heavy silence. I was scared, he finally admitted. I didn't know what else to do. You planned it, I reminded him, my voice devoid of emotion. You laughed about it with Dad. You coached Mom on how to lie to me. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't think about me at all, I corrected him. Clara, please, he tried again, his voice now a full-blown, pathetic beg. I'm begging you. I already told you, Michael. Beg someone else. I'm done. I hung up the phone. And then I blocked the number. No more texts came. No more calls. They must have finally realized that the door was not just shut, it was locked, barred, and barricaded. On Monday, I stood in the middle of my half-empty apartment and looked around at the life I had built for myself. Every inch of it earned. Every dollar fought for. Every piece of furniture, every book on the shelf, touched by the memory of people who now felt like complete strangers. I didn't cry. Instead, I packed my last suitcase, zipped it shut, and taped a note to the front door for the movers with my new London address. A 2-bedroom apartment, facing the river. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Not because everything was fixed, but because, for the first time, I wasn't pretending anymore. I found it in the back of a kitchen cabinet, tucked behind some old baking pans I never used anymore, nestled inside a chipped glass pie dish. The lasagna pan. Still clean, still heavy, still the same pan I had carried that fateful Sunday night, full of warmth and hope and extra cheese, believing with all my heart that I was walking into a home filled with love. I ran my hand along its smooth and cool edge. It was just an object, just glass and metal, but somehow it held the weight of everything. Every Sunday dinner I'd made. Every time I had tried to earn their affection. Every single way they had emptied me out and smiled while doing it. I didn't cry. I just picked it up, turned, and dropped it into the kitchen trash can. The sound it made wasn't loud, just a dull, final thud. At the airport, with my boarding pass in hand, I got one last text. It was from a number I didn't recognize, but I knew instantly who it was from. It was from Helen. I'm sorry, Clara. Not for needing help, but for how we planned to get it. You deserved better. I stared at the message for a long, long time. Then I typed back a single, simple sentence. I hope someday you can deserve forgiveness. I turned off my phone, slid it into my bag, and walked towards my gate, towards the rest of my life. 6 months later, the message came through my lawyer, Priya. Michael had been sentenced. 18 months in a low-security federal prison. Tax evasion, wire fraud, attempted concealment of assets. My parents had sold their house to help cover his astronomical legal fees. They had lost most of it anyway. They were now living with my aunt down in Florida. I didn't feel satisfaction when I heard the news. Not guilt. Not even anger. They were just names now. People I used to know, in a life I no longer lived. In London, the sky was always shifting. One moment it was a flat, uniform gray, the next it was a shimmering silver, and then, sometimes, it would break open into something almost warm. I had a corner apartment with old brick walls and a beautiful view of the river. I had made friends. Good ones, colleagues who valued my mind and my humor, who saw me for more than my signature on a check. Sometimes, on quiet Sunday mornings, I still made lasagna. Just for me. Not because I missed them, but because I needed to remember the girl who once believed that bringing food was the same as bringing love. The girl who carried her heart in a casserole dish and left it on their doorstep again and again and again, hoping that one day they would finally see it and hand it back to her, whole. She was gone now. And in her place stood someone different. Someone who knew that love without respect is just dead in disguise. Someone who finally understood that walking away wasn't giving up. It was remembering who you are. And sometimes, the only person who ever really shows up for you, the only one you can truly depend on, is you.